everybody. I am so excited to share with you my friend Jeanette. Jeanette Rodriguez is the owner of Vision in Heels. And if you have not been to Vision in Heels in DeLand, you have to walk in there and check it out. It is so freaking amazing. It's beautiful. This is a co-working space, and I can't say enough good about it. It has exploded, and I'm going to let Jeanette talk a little bit about that, but it is gorgeous and the perfect place to work if you're a remote worker. Jeanette, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Deanna.
You are so welcome. So tell everybody a little bit about you
Okay.
and Vision and Eels. Who is Jeanette Rodriguez?
Yes. So I'm new to co-working. So prior to this, I spent 20 plus years in trading operations. So got my MBA and just stayed in the finance world. Did some domestic trading and mostly international. So that's where I spent a lot of my time. My career, never did I thought I was going to end up owning a co-working space. So this is all new territory for me, but I absolutely love it. We're different than the traditional co-working because we provide more than just space. We truly are community and family, right? So people here come and they are open to share their stories and their wins, and we're found to be jumping up and down in the lobby with them when they get good news, and it's just amazing. So for me, having that community was important because in the corporate world, I felt that was missing.
Oh, yeah.
So when I attempted to do it, and create family and community, I got kind of like spanked, like, no, you're senior management, you have to be, strong, and you can't show emotion. And I'm like, why? They
Oh
work
boy.
better when they feel that you care for them. And it was just not like, it was frowned upon. And I'm like, I don't like this. And I want to create a company that I can do this. So
Yeah.
the community aspect was big for me.
That's such an interesting point that you break up because I never honestly thought about that. And I'd worked in the corporate world as well. And you're right. There really isn't that sense of community and high-fiving each other in the hallway. so
Right?
so you never thought about owning a co-working space.
Never.
What made you think that, oh my gosh, I want
Um,
to give this a shot?
while in corporate America, I came across, and this was during COVID, right? So who would think you want to own brick and mortar during a time where brick and mortar was not doing well?
Right.
So I came across Luminary in New York City through a women's event hosted at my employer. So I came across the founder. She shared her story. She was also finance. She worked in the banking industry all her life and created a female forward space in New York. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my goodness. And then I started stalking her company. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find out everything about Luminary. So I did. And then I messaged her and I said, are you interested in expanding in Florida? How crazy, right? During COVID.
Right.
And she goes, no, I don't want to do any other brick and mortar. I'm going to focus on tech and then my space in New York, but you can totally do it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it on my own. I'll invest. And this was about, I'm going to say 3 years ago, right in the beginning of COVID. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And so I went into research mode and I started researching everything about co-working, but also wanting to throw in the community aspect. So we are a female forward space, but funny fact, half of our members are male. So we got a call actually yesterday from someone saying, "Are guys allowed?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." So what we like to tell our guy members is that if there's a need that one of our female business owners can provide, please utilize them, help promote their business. And so it's been great to see that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet. I bet. So today we're talking about how to fund your dreams. So you come up with this idea. and you decide, okay, I want to do this. I want to create this co-working space. Can you share more about that initial phase of self-funding Vision and Heals? Like, how did you manage to save and allocate funds for your business while you were maintaining your job? How did that work?
So what I ended up doing is saving every single bonus. And so thankfully, I had a very good salary, right? And it allowed me to be able to just live off of one paycheck, and I saved the other. And I knew, okay, I want to open this up probably within the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm going on save mode. And I stopped splurging on shopping. We weren't vacationing, so that was easy, right? So
Well,
I
that's
was
true, right?
money we would have spent on, nice big vacations went to the business account. So of course I had to chat with my husband. I'm like, okay, this is the plan. Every single extra penny I have, I'm gonna put it in the business account. And so I did that, and I said, okay, when I get to X amount, right? Because it depends on your business, what you're gonna, if you need a brick and mortar, right? So I wanted to have at least a year of, if it's, my lease payment, I wanted to have that allocated in the bank. When I got that, so I knew more or less, I was doing research. And the funny thing is that all my research was done to open Vision and Heals in Lake Mary.
Oh,
Lake Mary.
which for those listening, Lake Mary is about 30 minutes away.
Yes.
Is it
Yep.
about 30 minutes away and a very different demographic than
Correct.
DeLand?
Correct. So it was a little like, so when I got to the end, the traffic going to Lake Mary got worse, right? In the midst of all of this, right? This is what, 2.5 years of planning. I'm like, oh my gosh. So every time I would go to look at the space, we found this space. We were going to be in Lake Mary Heathrow area over at the Colonial Plaza over there.
Mhm.
And it would take me, and I live in DeLand, right? It would take me almost 40 minutes. And I'm like, how many times a day I'm going to have to drive this, right? My daughter's in school in West Volusia. I'm going to have to drive back and forth, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. It just didn't sit well. So the space that I'm in now, I saw first, right? While I was planning for Lake Mary, I did a search within 30 miles, and this space came up. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. I can make it happen. I had a design idea. And I was like, I don't know. Everyone was telling me, don't do it in DeLand. You don't have the market there. And I'm like, I think I do. I think there's going to be people like me, right? Because I was also remote for 2.5 years at that point. And I was going crazy at home. Like, I couldn't do it. I was like, I cannot, I need people. I need to talk. I need to get dressed. I was gaining weight by the minute. Didn't know how to dress myself anymore. Like, I couldn't wear heels. I still struggle now to get back into my heels. And it's part of my brand, Vision and Heels, right?
Right.
So I was like, I know I'm not the only one. And I'm gonna aim to serve me, right? There's more of me. And in my
Right.
space, we are about 3,000 square feet right now. We're gonna grab another 3,000 on the second floor. But
That's
I said,
amazing.
I don't need, 1,000 people. I need 100. That's what my space can fit. So I need 100 of me that
Right.
don't want to work from home anymore, right? Or looking to create a business, and looking for other creators out there. This is what I need. So the broker kept emailing me, hey, we're waiting for the paperwork to come in. Are you ready? And I mean, we were ready to go.
Wow.
I said, wait, I think I have a change of heart. I want to bring this to my town where I live, where I'm from. We're locals here. My son went to college here. Like, I think I want to bring it here. Let me try it. And here we are today.
Wow.
So everyone told me I shouldn't do it.
Really?
Yes.
They thought you would be better off in Lake
So,
Mary and
yep.
Heathrow.
Yep.
Well, I am thrilled that you proved them wrong
Yes.
for starters.
Yes, indeed.
But that's scary. That is scary when you've saved up a year's worth of income so that you can invest
Yes.
in this dream, and now you're changing the game plan kind of last minute, it sounds like, and everybody's telling you, "Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not gonna work." And you're like, "No, I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
That's really a scary move.
What helped me some, so the Lake Mary space was 5,000 square feet. So I was walking into a space bigger. When I came to Deland, I grabbed a space. First, we were 2,600 square feet, and then I grabbed another smaller space upstairs for a classroom. So I said, okay, yes, I'm going into Deland, but I'm going to have a smaller lease payment, right?
Mhm.
So shouldn't be too bad, right? And that'll give me time. Now I have extra money because I planned on my 5,000 square feet, rent,
Right.
and I had that saved for a year. So now I have a little bit more, right? Um, Even though, so I also have a mentor who helps folks start up co-working spaces. And she told me, you're going to want at least 10 offices. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a lot of square feet. And I don't know. But what I loved about where I'm at today is that I had the option to add. So I said, let me test the market in Deland and then I can add as I go. And that's exactly what we have done.
That is incredible and very strategic planning on your part. I want to back it up to the 2 and 3 years that you were planning and you were saving money before Vision and Heels came to fruition. What were some of those biggest challenges you faced? Now, before I say this, you kind of had it a little bit easier that there was COVID and everything was shut down.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so whether you
But it
wanted to
was
save
also
money
a
or
time
not,
where people were saying, "Don't spend," and here I am
that's
saving to
true.
open a business, right? So I was like, "Ooh, am I making the right move? Like, what do I do? Should I just take all this money I saved and like continue to save it in case the world falls apart?" I don't know.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
was scary. Yes, 2 to 3 years, 2.5 years, I'm gonna say, of planning was not easy. It was tough. And then as I was planning, I was building my pro forma. And then I realized how hard it is to have a brick and mortar, right? So even if, the revenue is not coming in, you still have the expense of your space that
Yes, you
needs to
do.
be paid. So at the same time, because you are a new business, you have to sign off on it and say, okay, here's my credit, right? Because the business doesn't have credit yet. So now, and if anyone that's close to me will tell you I am like I check my credit all the time. I
Me
don't like
too.
any debt. I don't like any credit card debt. I no, I hate it. So that was scary. And I was like, oh, I gotta sign, and I don't know, right? It's just the unknown. But just taking the chance. Like, I
Yeah.
guess I said, if I'm gonna get into owning a business, I have to be comfortable with risk.
Yes, you do.
So I was like, this, you know what? In part of my role, I manage the whole risk team. So what we used to do is make sure, big companies are not at risk, right? And here I am, jumping right into it. So it was scary. It was not easy. Yes, COVID helped because no one was really spending. But at the same time, my family was growing, right? My son was just finishing college. We had expenses, so being able to create a budget, and that was big for me, right? So okay, what can I cut back on? Less shopping, less Starbucks runs. So I invested in an espresso, so I have it at home, and I could have the fancy coffee without spending $5 a cup. So those
Right,
are sacrifices I had to make, but the bigger picture was worth it.
right. Now, did you have a business plan
I did. I
when you
created a
launched?
business plan. So I had to learn about co-working, right? So I did all this research, created a business plan, and it's a different model, right? It's not your traditional, okay, you have product or you have a service, right? This is different, right? And then trying to figure out, then I had to tweak it because my business plan was for Seminole. So
Oh,
whole different market, right?
yes,
So, and
yeah,
I think you and I talked about the avatar, that we create for our ideal customer, um, changed. So everything changed, and I'm still tweaking based on what I'm seeing is the need of the community. But yeah, so I created a business plan, and then my last month I spent, mind you, I was still working a very demanding job. So lots of sleepless nights. I would go to
Wow.
bed probably 3 in the morning to get up at 8:30 to sign in and make sure my clients were good. My staff, I still had a staff. I had a staff, a really large team. Uh,
Wow.
so I had to make sure all of that was running at the same time, start planning for my business, right? And then I thought my business plan was great. It was solid. And then I changed it because I changed the location. So I had to revisit everything. But it's good to have like strategic alliances, some smart people around you, because you start picking their brains. Hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And it made such a difference.
So, can you give me some examples of how those strategic alliances helped you?
So I actually took a trip to New York to see Kate and spent some time with her and saw her space in action. That was a game changer for me because I was like, okay, it can be done. Before this, I just had pictures. I just had whatever research I came across from the websites, whatever. I wasn't able to actually physically walk into a space, right?
Okay.
So going to her and just asking her, what are the big expenses in a co-working space? You know what she responded? Toilet
What?
paper.
Did she really? Well, I bet it was if that's
Like, stack up on toilet paper. You have a female space. You're gonna go through it. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. So we always joke about that till this day. I'm like, remember what you told me? She's like, yep, stack up on toilet paper. But no, and then she gave me some tips on staffing, her staffing model, expenses, negotiating with, the owners of the building during COVID, right? She gave me all those good tips that helped, for me to go live. So that was great. And then when I got back to land, I decided to do some trips of my own and went to local co-working spaces. I had to drive to downtown Orlando for those that really promoted community, right? And then I started to see what I wanted and didn't want in my space.
Mm,
So that also helped, and got to know the owners of the founders of those co-working spaces and pick their brain and see what struggles they were having just to prepare me, right? So that I was able to, okay, this may come my way, right? Or maybe I do this to avoid that. So strategic alliances are so important, right? And so also being around other business owners, I had never been. I worked in corporate America, I'm going to say since I was 16. It was my first
yeah.
job in Wall Street.
Wow.
I was 16 years old. I've always worked for a company. 15 and the 30th, my paycheck was there. Had benefits, had all of that, right? So my goal was to leave work and do this full time. So I had to be around other business owners. Hey, what do you do about healthcare? How do you save for taxes? What is this? Right? Because these are things that I had to learn and I had to adapt
Right.
in order to be successful in owning a business. So yes, it's so important to find your strategic alliances, get to know people. And I think I heard this in your last podcast, like you want to be around those that already made it.
Yes.
So for me, and I love that you said that because I was like, yes, that's exactly how I felt leading up to even till this day.
Yeah.
I still want to be in the room with others that made it. Like, hey, I know you felt like I have felt, I feel. How did you
Yeah.
get through it? Right. And
Right.
so that's so important.
I think so too. And, sometimes it feels kind of cool, right? When you're the one that has all the knowledge and you're the smartest in the room, but it doesn't serve you
No,
well.
doesn't
It
serve
does
you well.
not serve you well. Like if your ego is running the game, then stay there and be the smartest person
Yes.
in the room
I'd
all the
rather
time.
not. I'd rather be the one like,
Right.
it's like, wait, what did you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
honestly, and I think that is so important to surround yourself with people that you see killing it and people that are better than you, so then you've got something to strive for. Now,
Yes.
in those early phases, right? First off, how long did it take you to leave your job? Did you leave your job when you opened Vision and Heels, or did you work there for a while before you decided to
I
quit?
worked I worked there for a while, and so I actually am 4 months. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I left my full-time job 4 months ago. So I'm still new to this, and I'm still
Yes.
learning, and it's scary, um, but I would not have done it any other way because even while I was operating a business, I was able to still save, right? So yes, I created this cushion for the business where we have a year's worth of our expenses. But now while we were operating, I was still able to, add to that account to be able to do more, to be able to
Yeah.
expand, right? Because we knew going in, we sold out of our private offices really quick. I'm like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, I'm gonna need more space. Um, and so being able to stay employed allowed me to do that. Like I said, we just lived off of my husband's income, and my income went to, my expenses, my personal expenses, and my business.
Did you take any loans out for the business?
No loans.
No loans. You
No
used
loans.
your credit card, but then paid it off,
Yeah.
right? You mentioned
So I went when I did my business account, I went to my bank that I already had history with, and they already saw that, okay, I've been in only one bank, since I was 18. So they saw that I had history. Yes, they pulled my credit, but I was able to open a credit card under the business, right?
yeah,
EIN to create that credit. But I had to sign off. So they based it on my credit.
gotcha.
So I
Yeah.
did that just for like office supplies. And so what we do is we get all our office supplies and then we pay it off at the end of the month. And we've done that for a year and our credit line has increased. So which is great. In case we need it, it's there. I'm thinking when we get upstairs, I'm going to have a lot of purchasing to do. So I'm saving that for that. But yes, yes, I did do that. No other loans other than the small card we got from the bank. And I used my bank that I banked with to open my
Yeah.
business account. So that made it
If
easy
you
because they
are
were able to trust, right? They're like, okay, we know you're good for it.
right,
Um, and it helped that I was still getting deposits in from my paycheck.
right.
So they saw there was consistent money flow. So they're like, okay, we'll, give you a small credit line and see where you
Yeah,
can
but
go.
it's something, right? Because when you start,
Yeah,
like you said, your business doesn't have any credit, and then you can build it up. And I'm a
right.
fan of I use my credit card for everything, but I pay it off every 30 days.
Yes,
And the
yes,
second thing is if you're going to use a credit card, there are so many rewards out there. Like
yes,
there's the cash back, I love to travel, right? So, and it's so funny. I will strategically look for the card that is going to benefit me the most.
right.
Like, right?
Yes,
And
I love
like
that.
it's like which one has the best reimbursement plan? Because if you're going to spend it anyhow, you might as well get rewarded for it.
Yep.
But don't do that if you're not disciplined enough to pay it off every
Yeah,
30 days, because then
absolutely.
it's not worth it. But if
Absolutely.
you can, it's worth it. So in those early years, and even in that first year that you're in right now, you're coming up to a year anniversary, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
August. Mhm.
Okay, so you are still in this first year, and it's important to really pay attention to your expenses. Where did you find where were you able to cut overhead expenses, or where did you pay a lot of attention to of what you were spending? Because you can spend a lot of money when you open a business. You will spend a lot of money when you open a business, but
Yeah,
how did you cut that?
the first year was weird because I had to get furniture. Uh,
Yeah.
and that at the same time, shipping, like, it would take forever because we were in the midst of COVID, so things weren't arriving as quick. So we had that working against us. And then, everything was higher, right? So, I couldn't believe how expensive an office chair was. Like, what? And I need how many for that room? Like, oh my goodness, TVs in every single conference room. So I had to buy, walking in 4 TVs, so I had a lot of expenses in the beginning. Um, and so yes, I planned for it, but it was higher than I had planned because we were in COVID, right? And so
Yeah.
everything was more. Contractors getting people to come in and do the work. So we built out this place. It was a doctor's office prior to us. So we had a lot of build out just to get someone to come in and quote us on something. It took forever, right? And then when we got the quote, I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, being able to know, okay, do all this, we added the vision lab, and that was all glass enclosed room. I had already planned for it, but we had spent so much going into the build out and the furniture that I had to put that off. So the front has been transformed, and you've been here a few times. You've seen it in the beginning, and now we have the glass, and that was because it was very expensive. And
Okay.
so I had to postpone that and say, okay, we will have the glass vision lab that we have in our business plan, but we're going to do that at a later time when revenue is flowing in and it makes a little bit more sense. So being able to look at your expenses and adjust is important, right? Obviously, the rent needs to be paid, right?
Yeah.
So you want to pay that off, and if you have a brick and mortar and you're signing a long-term lease, try to get a couple months of free rent so you have that wiggle room, that time for the build out, that time that you're trying to get the folks to know that you're there, right? So try to negotiate some free rent. We did that. So little things like that we were able to do and adjust that helped tremendously. So now our expenses are pretty steady, and now they're going to creep up again because of the expansion. So we're
Yes.
prepping for it. We're prepping for it.
So by prepping for it, you're putting money away, you're saving, you're getting ideas of what the costs are going to be.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we already now we know, right? So we have our vendors for the furniture. So now we have a pretty accurate quote of what it's going to cost us. So now it just depends on when we get the keys and when we order it, because they do say, well, if you order it now, it's at this price. I can't guarantee. So, of being able to have that wiggle room, which we've created, I think we're okay. And it's different now because now we have a wait list, right? So I know
That's nice.
going into the second floor, out of the 10 offices, I think we have 7 already allocated for, which is great.
Yeah, that is great.
So we know revenue is going to start day one. Whereas here, I didn't have that. So I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
we're going to sit and wait, hopefully.
So let's talk about that real quick, right? Because it is nice. Now you know that revenue is going to be coming in because people are familiar with you and they know what you're about. But what about when you first opened? What was your approach to trying to generate revenue? What did you do?
A lot of education, believe it or not. I spent almost every day that I was here, and I hired some staff too to help, because obviously when I was here, I was in an office working, right? Because I had my
Right.
job. So whenever I got a break, I would come out, show face, talk to folks, or when my community manager would give a tour, she would come by my office and I know someone's here. I would literally, go on break for a minute or two and then, introduce myself. Hey, I'm Jeanette, founder. You have any questions? So I spent a lot of time in the beginning educating folks on co-working. No one really knew what co-working was. Some were like, oh, are you similar to WeWork? And I'm like, yeah, similar concept, but we're different because, right? And you have to remember what I'm competing against. Someone's home,
Right.
right? So they have
That's
everything they
true.
need at home. They're comfortable. They have their pets. They can take care of their kids. They can cook. They can. So that was my competition. So being able to say, okay, what are you not getting at home that you can get here? Community, right? So we have, I think I'm going to say about 20% of our members that work for companies, but just don't want to work from home because their distractions at
True.
home. They're lonely.
Yeah.
Or we have someone that's here right now that said, I want to work outside the house because I want to be able to leave my computer and at 5:30 shut off. And at home, I keep working till 8. And my husband's not happy,
So
my kids
true.
are not happy, and I'm not happy. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna invest in a space, and I'm gonna leave my house between 8:30 and 5:30 and be done with work. And she literally leaves her computer here, logs
Yeah.
off, and she goes home. happy husband, happy wife, happy kid. So I had to realize, okay, my competition is home. What are they not getting at home that they can
Yeah.
get here? And really like own that. Like, okay, guys, we have to be big on community. And a lot of our time, like, yes, we're busy, but if someone comes in because they want to talk, we have to make time for that because this is what we are, right?
Right.
Who we are. So a lot of times, if I need to do something right now, I'm in an enclosed room so that I'm not, getting pulled. But that's most of my day is talking to the members, and it's part of my job. And whomever is here working, they have to understand that our job is to make sure the community we're building that, we're living that,
Yeah.
that's our brand. It needs to be part of our DNA. And if that doesn't work for you, then it's okay. Maybe this is not the right job for you, but this is what Vision and Heels is. So,
That's a great point. And what I love about that is that, and we talked about this a little bit, you know who your audience is.
yes,
You know exactly what their pain point is, and you know what you're competing against. And that is so important that you focus on that. And that's going to bring in additional revenue because you know exactly who you're targeting. So now you have revenue and you are expanding. And I'm sure, just talking to you, right? You have some sort of cash flow management.
yes.
What are some tips or strategies that you can share that has worked with your business finances and how you manage those effectively?
Know your numbers.
Yeah.
Like I literally know, okay, this is coming in this month, right? Um, for me, because I'm finance, I know eventually I have to let go a little bit, but I keep it real close. And I know my
Yeah.
numbers, know what we can do when we can do it. And for me, that's been a game changer, right? Because if I didn't know my numbers and I just went and spent without the money coming in, we wouldn't be here today.
Right.
Well, knowing your numbers is important. I know eventually, as we continue to grow, I'm going to have to let that piece go. But I'm still going to know, right? I think it's just in my DNA,
I
as
would think it probably is with your background.
believe it or not, math was not my favorite subject. I hated math,
Really?
but I was good with money. Always have been good with money since I was a kid. I was able to literally like double a quarter. Like, I kid you not. I would get a bag of chips back then. Potato chips were 25 cents and would say, "Hey, I'll share half of it with you if you give me 50 cents." And they would give me 50 cents. And so I don't know how I was able to convince, but then I had 50 cents for two more bags of chips. And then I would keep doing that and I would just make money. I
That is
was
so
always
funny.
good with money, always good with money. I was able to save for whatever I wanted, create budgets. I mean, I'm talking about, in New York, you could work at 14. They give you like the working papers for the
Herbert,
team.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got my working papers at 14. Back then, Jordans was a big thing. And my mom was like, I'm not paying, $100. And $100 back then, talking about, mid 90s, early
Yeah.
90s. I mean, that was a lot. Now they're double that price. But I was like, what can I do to get Jordans? Like, so I got a job and then I saved. And then when I got paid, I was like, man, it took me, I mean, this was minimum wage, 4.25 an hour back then. I was like,
Yeah.
it took a lot of like hours for me to make this money. I don't want to spend it on Jordans.
Yeah.
So we had a little group of us that did work and we would take trips to outlets, so that
Oh,
we can buy nice stuff at a fraction of the cost. And so, I mean, I was just always looking at ways to save and how can this make me money? And that's why I was so fascinated with
yeah.
trading world. And that's why I ended up in that area. But yeah, I was always good with money, bad with math, but good with money. But
That is
knowing your numbers is
interesting.
important. It has been why we've been able to grow and be successful.
I really believe that that is key, is to really know your finances. And I'll be honest, when I first started my business, I was in survival mode and it was more about, am I surviving?
Yeah.
Than really looking at what's coming in, what are the expenses, how do I manage this? And I'm going to bring this up because I know that I share this with you and I know that you're reading the book, but
Yes.
Profit First,
Yes.
which if you are a business owner and you have not read this, I highly recommend reading it because it was a game changer for me. but it taught me how to allocate my funds, and it's so much easier to save money, and it forces you to
Yes.
pay attention to how much money you're making.
Mhm.
So, yes, and I know you just started reading that too, so which is
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
that's something I'm learning that too, right? So part of my saving plan was, okay, make sure I have a cushion for
Yeah,
myself. So I'm living off of what I have saved, right? But that's not, I should be giving myself a paycheck from my
yes.
business, right? So that's why when you and I spoke, I'm like, I got to get in that mindset. Yes, I saved and it's great. Yeah, I have the cushion, but I need to be paying myself for my
You
work.
definitely do, it's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah.
So now it's to get out of that mindset because now I'm like, no, but I'm growing and I could use the money somewhere else. I'm like, no, you'll hustle, you'll create new offerings so the money can come in so you can pay yourself and still grow, right? Because your
Right.
mindset changes. So I'm learning that from the book. You know, like I said, strategic alliances, if it wasn't for you mentioning the book, I would have never read it. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I think it's a
You've been
great
a
book.
business owner, so you've been able to share, you know, a lot with me. So I appreciate it.
And well, thank you. And I'm glad. But just like you said, I get all that from other business owners. In fact, yesterday I was on a Zoom with a friend of mine who lives in Ohio. She has created a multi-million dollar business that started on the back porch of her parents' house. And she's always like pouring into me, right? And so it's like that's what we do. It's just like that water thing. One pours into the other, that pours into the other, and we just continue to help each other. And that is the one thing that I see with business owners and entrepreneurs. They really want to help each other. Like there is this support system, the secret society support system. And we are
Mhm.
always just really lifting each other up and trying to see each other hit the next level.
It gets lonely. It's different
Yeah.
from corporate America, right? So I had, you know, got myself to the top of my role, but there was always someone above, right? So there was always somebody to look up to, like, okay, yes, you know, they got this,
Yeah.
they did this, let me kind of follow that path. But when you own a business, it's like, okay, you're it. So
Yeah.
what are you doing to make sure that you're being fed, right? And I need encouragement. I need empowerment. That is how I flow. That's how I'm happy. Like I need to be constantly learning. I need to, you know, be fed, right? So that I
Yeah.
can be fueled up to come in here and say, okay, guys, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to focus on. New month, new goals. This is it, but I need that coming in. So being able to invest in yourself, and a lot of times it's you investing in a retreat, in a membership, you know, so that you're getting fed, so that you can continue on. And I don't think we can cheat ourselves from that. I think it's
I
needed
agree.
because you're investing in you, who's going to turn around and invest in your business. You can't pour from an empty cup. I always say that.
Right.
So make sure your cup is full so that you can continue to give on. So
Yeah.
learning that has been like, yeah, if I do this or I go to this mastermind or I join this and I'm a member here, yes, that's going to cost me.
Mhm.
But it isn't, right? It's an
Yeah.
investment.
Yes, and that was something that I struggled with in the beginning, because in the beginning when money is tight and you are, the first 5 years they say. The
Yes.
first 5 years they say is that's where most businesses are either going to sink or swim, right?
Mhm.
But in those beginning years, you feel selfish if you invest in yourself and you pay yourself, right? You
Yes.
take money away, you feel like it needs to go back into the business. But what I failed to recognize is by investing in my education is actually putting it back into the business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Right.
so, so important. So I want to do a quick recap. So to fund your dream, you want to make sure that you are saving, you know what to save. You
You
wanna
plan.
make sure that you have a business plan, some
Yes.
sort of strategy, that
Yes.
you pay attention to cash flow and
Right.
you're fully aware of those numbers. And then you need to also understand who your audience is so then you can continue to target them and generate revenue. Am
Absolutely.
I missing something out of
No,
those?
I think you hit it on the nose, and the amount is gonna depend on your business, right? What's your
Right,
model? You may not have a brick and mortar, but you may have supplies, right? You may have, something tangible that you need to
right,
produce. So whatever that is, I know folks that have been able to do it with 6 months of savings, and see, I knew brick and mortar was gonna require more, so I decided to save up a year.
right,
And it's worked for me, but I know folks have done it in 6, right? And they may not have a higher, they don't have brick and mortar, or, other expenses, but just whatever they're producing, right? If it's a
right,
product or service, right? So
right,
if it's a service, they have to invest more in systems and programs to be able to provide that service. So figure out what you're going to need, and that's going to come from your business plan, right?
right,
As you're planning for your business, it's going to make you get in those areas. Okay, what systems are going to be needed? How many people I need to hire, if I need to hire, right? All those things are going to need to be laid out in your business plan, which is going to force you to do the research and do the work to understand what your business is going to need to survive. So the
right,
business plan is so important, so important. Don't cheat yourself from it. I know it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it.
right. I have one other quick question. Did you talk to an accountant during this process or not?
I'm like, so again, because I'm in the
You know,
field, I did a lot of it and I knew a lot of it. So definitely should. And like I said, eventually I'm gonna have to let it go because it takes a lot of time.
right,
But because it's what I did, you know.
right,
So I still do it. I still manage all my accounts and reconcile, and I do all of that. But for me, it comes second nature. Yeah, but I know it's not going to be able to stay like this. Now we're adding second floor. The plan for Vision and Heels is to expand. Expand throughout Florida, maybe go into another state. So yeah, there's a lot of
yeah,
plans for growth within the next 5 years. So I know I'm going to have to let go of that piece. But
yeah,
yes, definitely talk to an accountant if you're not one, because I know folks that are, savvy with the numbers and are able to do it. Great, but you should definitely talk to an accountant.
yeah. Where I see the benefit of that, and I didn't when I launched. I started talking. Well, I had an accountant, but I didn't use the accountant the way I should have.
Hmm.
I was doing it mainly for book, but where I found it's an accountant's real value is when it comes to tax law and
Yes,
what you can write off and what you can't write off, right? And how to really make your business more profitable by
right.
what you're doing already. So,
Well,
but
okay, so and
yeah,
I'll go back to my answer. So yes, I do. I don't do my own taxes for the business. Before the business, yes.
okay.
With the business, nope, I will not, because of that reason. There's things that you can write off that I didn't know, right? Because I
Yeah,
never had to claim that I owned a business before. So yes, and so she loves when I go to her, because I have all my, P&L statement. I have everything. Boom, boom, boom. Here you go, and I have everything so organized, so she knows what she can write off, and then she turns it around really quick. So I did a lot of like the book stuff, and then as far as filing it and knowing where to put things, she does that for me.
oh, see, you're a good client. I have gotten better, but now mine does it all, right? But in the beginning, I was the person with the shoebox of receipts. I was a nightmare. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and so, yeah, you are good. You've been in the industry long enough. And it does make it so much easier when you are organized, QuickBooks or whatever platform you use. It does make it so much easier for your accountant, but also for you to know your numbers, which is what we
Absolutely.
talked about. You can't know your numbers unless you're paying attention to your expenses as well as your profits and just the whole snapshot of your business. So if somebody is listening and they have this dream and they want to fund their own dream, and we kind of went over everything, but what would you tell them?
It's possible, guys. Like, you can totally do it. And you're hearing this from someone that barely takes risks. So this is the riskiest thing I've ever done. Um, and I frequently ask myself, do I have any regrets? The answer is always no,
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
the freedom of being able to just get up in the morning and say, I want to do this in my company. I want to offer this and not have to jump through hoops, not have
Mm,
to ask permission. The freedom to say, okay, guys, I think we're going to focus on this. Or today I'm not going to go in the office because I want to spend the day with my kid and I don't have to ask for a PTO day. I
yeah,
mean, it's just like, so it's risky, but it's definitely worth the risk. Like, to be able to see your creation, like it's your baby, right?
yeah,
So I'm still in the infant stage, and I say I'm in love stage. Even though it's crazy, it's wild, it's like a roller coaster, right? It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like super excited, yes, 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 and then other times I'm like this. That's when I start, going through my whatever I'm a member of, right? And I start getting fed, and I go through my podcast, and I start reading my books. And I'm like, okay, time to snap out. But
yeah,
it's a wonderful roller coaster ride. It's just do it. I know it's scary, but you can do it. Create a plan and you adjust. Like, some people say, I can't save because, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And I thought so too, right? Yes, my income was higher, but my bills were higher.
right.
So, but I was able to do it, even though I thought I couldn't. And based on, what our expenses were, I'm like, this is going to be tough, but I did it, right? We learn how to adjust.
Yeah.
So you can do it, guys.
Yeah, I do. I love that. I love that you say it. It's possible, right? I quit my job and then started a business, and I had no safety net. Now, I would not recommend anybody doing that, but there was no plan B for me. There was, you do it, you have to do it. Like, there's not or after it, right? And I believe that we do make excuses, and that excuse is I'm living paycheck to paycheck. We can all find ways to cut back if it
Absolutely.
means enough to us, then we
There,
can figure it out.
there it is. That's the
Yeah,
key. Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, when all you have is your business and there's no plan B, you hustle different. Like, it's like do
Preach.
or die. Do or die. You're gonna do this. You're gonna get it done. You're gonna grind out. And even if you fall, you pick yourself back up, wipe off your knees, and keep going. Like,
Yep,
there's no choice. Like, you cannot say, "Oh, I'll go back to corporate America," or "I'll do this." No, you gotta. That's it. Your job is gone. You quit now. Just go, run.
the thought of going back to corporate America terrifies me.
Oh my gosh, I know. I
Because
know.
this life is so amazing.
It is.
Even though it is a roller coaster ride, that to me is like,
I lost your. I think you're on mute.
there we go. I hit the button by accident, thank you. But the thought of going back and getting a 9 to 5 and asking for a day off is just, I can't imagine it. That's
Yeah,
the
I know
motivation to keep.
kids. I mean, my daughter can come in here and she gets inspired. It's funny because when we were in the opening phase, I did a lot of like interviews, and so I thought my kids weren't listening, right? So I'm on Zoom calls, just telling folks about Vision and Heals and what we are and who we are. And so one night we were home. We had been, setting up and Zoom calls and doing all this stuff. We had a lot of events leading up to our grand opening, and we get home, and my kids are like role playing, right? So I hear my daughter telling my son, "Interview me, ask me a question." And so here she is, like fully explaining. She was 9 at the time, 9 going on 10, and like just saying what Vision and Heals is. And I'm like, wow. And she
That's
tells her friends with pride, like, hey, my mom has an office, and or she's on, playing her game online, because they actually get on FaceTime and they play the game, right? So they're on both. They're on live with the game, and she's like, no, I'm at my mom's office, and so just like she's so proud of that, right? And I'm like,
wow.
I couldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't be able to bring her into my office and let her do all,
Yeah.
ask her what her mom did before. I don't know. She deals with money.
It's a different sense of pride and learning.
Yeah.
She is learning
All
what
she
it
knew
takes.
was there was pictures of her in my office, and my office was outside of a lot of people in the front, and that's it. And I think she deals with money, but I don't know what else she does.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Jeanette, thank you so much
this was
for
awesome.
sharing
Thank
this.
you.
I have so enjoyed this. You've shared so much great information about funding your own dream. And I love that you've made it, you've simplified the steps. I don't want to say easy because it is work.
It's work and it's
But
hard, but it
yeah,
can be done.
right, right. I love it.
That's never opened a business before. I was able to. It's scary, but it's fun. Do it.
So worth it. So worth it. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you sharing.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we will see everybody next week. Bye.